This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi, curious minds out there in our ever-expanding radio land. Welcome to CC with BB, Connecting with Coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. That's me. This is the only radio show in the world dedicated to the study of coincidences, synchronicity, and serendipity. We are coming to you through the auspices of the X-Zone Broadcast Network, located in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and broadcasting all over the world. One of the most important questions for modern science and all humanity is the relationship between mind and brain. Does brain produce consciousness, or does the greater consciousness produce the brain? How do mind and brain interact with each other? I am a psychiatrist. I study this question in my office. I help people with medications and with psychotherapy. I work in both the brain and the mind. You need your mind to recognize a coincidence and your brain to talk about it. Synchronicity spoken here. Coincidences alert us to the mysterious hiding in plain sight. In other words, coincidences alert us to possible causal connections not recognized by modern science. The phrase, quote, connecting with coincidence, end quote, is my coincidence brand. It is the name of my book, my Psychology Today blog, my website, and my social media sites. To find them, please put Connecting with Coincidence in your search engine. Would you like to know how sensitive you are to coincidences? Take the Weird Coincidence Survey on my website. I want to introduce a new term to you today, coincidentiality. Coincidentiality means the predisposition to create and to see coincidences. For example, talking about coincidences on a regular basis increases coincidentiality. That means that this radio show should be connected with an increase in coincidence. And so it is. Before last week's show with Alexis Brooks, Alexis described thinking of the producers of the movie Time is Art, Synchronicity and the Collective Dream. The producers had contacted her 6 months ago, and then she had forgotten about them. But then she started thinking about them again, and as she prepared for my show, she selected one of the interviews just to get an idea about what was going on the show, and she picked the one show that involved the central character to that movie that she had been thinking about, and that got her to contact the producers in New York. She really enjoyed thinking about the show, about the movie, and then finding it on my website. During the break, during her interview, she mentioned an online group that she thought I might be interested in with a person named Jeff Mishlove. Did I know him? She asked. Yes, Jeff is on the program right now with us this week. And then a couple of days ago, before speaking with Jeff today, I received an email from Brendan Engen, with whom Jeff had an outstanding coincidence more than 10 years ago. So here, our guest today is involved with 2 out of 3 coincidences in the past week that were directly related to the show. Jeff is quite a person, quite a man, and his interest in a variety of topics, which include what I'm interested in today possibly is the relationship between parapsychology, particularly Psi, and synchronicity. Jeff was the host of New Thinking Aloud and the author of The Roots of Consciousness, Psi Development Systems, and the PK Man. Between 1986 In 2002, he hosted and co-produced the original program called Thinking Aloud on public television. That's quite a run. He is the recipient of the only doctoral diploma in parapsychology ever awarded by an accredited university, the University of California, Berkeley, in 1980. He is also past president of the nonprofit Intuition Network, an organization dedicated to creating a world in which all people are encouraged to cultivate and apply their inner intuitive abilities. And one of the things that coincidences are intended to help people do is just what the Intuition Network is intending to have happen. Coincidences are another way to be able to help people tune in and cultivate their own intuitive experiences. Jeff, welcome to the program, and very glad to have you on here. And we will be cutting to a break in just a few minutes, so a few seconds. I just want to be able to say hi to you, and that I look forward to talking with you about your parapsychological interests, and particularly synchronicity and psi. Could you just in the next couple of seconds, could you talk about how you got interested in coincidences? I think you mentioned that there was a series of them that led you to being interested in parapsychology and the media.
Hi, Bernie. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And yes, I think it's fair to say that my career in parapsychology has largely been guided by coincidences.
Let's stop right there for this next break. I'm sorry for the cut this way, but that's where I want to go in our next segment, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back to CC with BB, the only radio show in the world dedicated to the study and discussion of coincidences. Our guest today is Jeff Mishlove, and we are beginning to talk about how Jeff got involved in both the media and parapsychology using coincidences, and how coincidences continue to guide him in his career. Please, let's get right into that, Jeff.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start back in 1972. At that time, I was a graduate student at Berkeley in criminology. I was doing field work at San Quentin Prison and really taking a close look at the dark side of human nature, doing, in fact, psychotherapy with murderers and rapists. And I desperately wanted to switch. I wanted to study positive forms of human deviance, not negative. But as you may know, in universities across North America, it's much, much easier to study psychopathology and crime than it is to study creativity, intuition, and especially synchronicity and psychic functioning. So
Yes.
I agonized for months and months about that, and one day I knew that the answer was going to come to me in a dream. And so I had that dream that night in which I was visiting some friends who lived in Berkeley and knocked on their apartment door. In the dream, there was no answer, and in the dream, I knew where they kept a key. So I took the key, opened the door, walked into their living room, and found in my dream a magazine sitting on the middle of their living room floor. And in the dream, the magazine was called I, E-Y-E. So at that moment, I woke up from the dream with this feeling of exhilaration, eureka, I have the answer, but I hadn't a clue as to what the answer really meant. So I actually acted out the dream. I put on my tennis shoes, ran across town to 5 miles to this apartment, knocked on the door, and nobody was there. And it just so happened I did know where they kept their key. So I found the key under the doormat, let myself in, walked into the living room, and in the middle of the living room floor was sitting a magazine named Focus. That magazine literally brought focus to my life at that point because it was the magazine of the local listener-sponsored radio and television KQED in the San Francisco Bay Area. And at that moment, even though I didn't own a radio or TV, in fact, I was a long-haired hippie who didn't believe in that electronic communication was at all authentic, I changed my mind and decided to get involved. And I went down to KPFA radio in Berkeley and even though I had my master's degree at that point in criminology, I said, I'm here to volunteer. And they gave me a little job sitting at the front desk. And they said, when you hear the doorbell ring, push this buzzer and let people in the front door. And that honestly changed my whole life, because in 3 weeks I had learned how to produce radio programs, as you're doing now. And I was given my own regular program twice a week called The Mind's Ear. And I found myself all of a sudden sitting across a table with world-class experts, everyone passing through the San Francisco Bay Area who had written a book on consciousness, and 10,000 people listening in. So I made a decision at that point that I had the resources to begin to create for myself an individual interdisciplinary doctoral major in parapsychology. And ever since then, I've had this feeling that when you resolve to reach and for your highest potential, to become the best person that you can become, the universe reaches back to help you. And that's how I see synchronicities. It's sort of an intelligence coming from the universe itself.
There's a few other elements to this, is your own cleverness in several aspects of what you described. The sense that you knew you would have a dream that would guide you, that then you had that it became focus, which certainly are related to each other. Yep. And then you decided to act out the dream. I mean, most people aren't going to do that. And then you went over to the house to find that focus. And then somehow you went over to KPFA and volunteered. And there's a step that I didn't get there, is how that you went from pushing the button to having a radio program.
Well, I learned how to produce programs, and I produced one. I produced a program about psychics in the Bay Area, that you didn't have to be from out of town to have psychic abilities. And that little program went over so well that the program director came up to me the next day and said, "We have a slot available for you twice a week. Would you take it?" And
oh, it's that little well, that's pretty funny. I went to I was at Stanford for my residency from about 1969 to 74, with 2 years at the U.S. Public Health Service Hospital in San Francisco. So I like to think that I went to the University of Haight-Ashbury.
We probably rubbed shoulders.
It was a very good education, so I can imagine some of the people I ran into might have been on that original radio program of yours. Indeed. Well, the universe provides, but you had a need. And one of the key elements of producing coincidences is need. And you wanted to get out of San Quentin. And you wanted to get on the other side of negative. But I admire that you decided to act out the dream. That's not something most people would do.
And I don't even think of it as a decision. It's as if I woke up and just knew what to do.
Yeah, and that's where you have early on were tuned into your own intuition and could see how that could be a guide rather than relying on rationality all the time.
Well, I think that a real important part of that process is actually the fact that I agonized for months before I reached the point where everything was ready to pop. Yeah.
And maybe this is the kind of question I like to ask: is can you think of an explanatory mechanism about how your agonizing that reached a point to pop helped create the dream that led you to your career?
Well, it's a sort of a physiological process in a way. If you want to really relax, for example, the Jacobson relaxation process, a good way to relax is to tighten up your muscles and tighten them and tighten them and tighten them, and then relax, rather than just to say, okay, I'm going to relax now. And I think that it's that sort of a process, maybe at a spiritual or psychological level, that helped to trigger that very important synchronicity that changed my life.
Yeah, somebody told me that one of the best things you can do is go to extremes of yin and yang. Mm-hmm. And that's a descriptor you just applied to both muscles and to spiritual development. I think you got something there, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
How about any other ones after that? I mean, you had a very long-running program. I love the name of that program of yours, Thinking Aloud,
mm-hmm.
That we're able to say the thoughts that maybe we're not allowed to say usually, but we can now on this TV program. And it's also we're allowed to do it here. It's a wonderful play on words. So you've done something right, and there were some other coincidences that got you in your career. Could you tell us some of the other ones, please?
Well, another coincidence that sort of prompted me early on, back in the early 1970s, I had a very, very powerful dream once again about a great uncle of mine, Uncle Harry, whom I hadn't thought about or seen for over a decade. And he came to me in this dream and began talking to me in a very deep way about my life. In fact, using some of Chinese symbols, actually, the yin-yang. And when I woke up from that dream, I was crying and singing at the same time, singing actually a very sacred song that I had. I don't know how it just popped into my mind, but for your listeners who are Jewish, the song was Avinu Malkeinu, which is...
Avinu Malkeinu.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song, and I only once in my life have I ever awakened singing and crying like that at the same time. So I wrote home and I asked my parents, how's Uncle Harry? I had a dream about him. My mother called me up immediately and said, how did you know Uncle Harry had just died? Well, that sort of shook me, and I asked if I could have an item that belonged to him, something I could have to remember him by. And my Aunt Jeanette sent me a little book. It was a Yiddish book. It took me a while to get it translated, and I was told this is Uncle Harry's favorite book. Well, it turned out to be a book called The Tales of the Baal Shem Tov. It was about Jewish mysticism and the Hasidic tradition. And
Martin Buber. It was written by Martin Buber. Yes, I know that book.
Well, this was the Yiddish version, and what I didn't realize is that my great Uncle Harry had been a mystic his whole life, but he kept it hidden from everybody. We just thought of him as a pious old man, not a person involved in Jewish mysticism. So that sort of awakened something in me as well.
Yes. This getting a message somehow that someone that you're close to has died became a fairly common theme in my research here. I had an experience in San Francisco in 1973 of experiencing of choking uncontrollably and finding out the next day that my father had choked on his own blood and died.
Oh.
That's the old definition of telepathy, feeling at a distance. It's become more cognitive. So I invented the term simulpathity to cover this old definition of telepathy in a new way.
I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. And what you did includes like some apparitions. People when people die, an apparition sometimes appear to a loved one and say goodbye or something like that. And that's what you had. So you've got taught by Uncle Harry that there's more going on in the world than what you found at San Quentin or any other place that you'd been before.
Well, that experience really shook me up. And I began because I was at that time volunteering in the psychology department at Berkeley. I went to my professors and began asking them, what can you tell me about this experience? And I quickly learned that they had nothing whatsoever intelligent to say about it. And that made me resolve that if I was going to understand what was an experience that shook me to my bones, I was going to have to become my own expert. I couldn't rely on other people to do it for me.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. So we are coming to the end of this segment, and we will continue with Jeff Mishlove in our next segment, talking about some really cool stuff.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Welcome back to CC with BB, Connecting with Coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. That's me. And our guest today is Jeff Mishlove with some wonderful experiences in coincidences that helped to propel him into a career in parapsychology and related areas. Jeff, that's some very good stories, and you had to figure it out yourself. And really, that's what happened to me, too. Hey, man, there's some weird stuff going on out here. I would notice starting when I was 9, and I found my lost dog by accident or coincidence, and my father and the choking and a lot of other things. Nobody was telling me about it, and then I started looking around myself and came across Jung, etc. But you somehow put it all together to get yourself a degree from Berkeley. Could you tell us how you did that?
Well, there was a program at the time that if you were a graduate student in good standing, which I was, I just gotten my master's degree in criminology, and you wanted to work in an interdisciplinary area where no single department would sponsor your work, but you could find professors in different departments who would all agree to do that, then you could go to the graduate division and create an individual degree. And so I went through that process. I found a handful of professors who were willing to sponsor me in parapsychology and set it up. And the sad thing is that after I got my degree in parapsychology 7 years later, after a lot of hard work and many obstacles put in my way, the university, I think, was so embarrassed by the publicity that resulted that they canceled the whole individual interdisciplinary doctoral program, and it was unavailable for decades. I think they finally reinstituted it, but they made it really, really hard for people to follow me after that happened. And as a result, now we're more than 35 years later, and I'm still the only person in the world with a doctoral diploma from an accredited university that says parapsychology on it.
Amazing.
Which is very sad to me. It's one of the reasons that I set up the new Thinking Aloud video series now, because I expect that someday in the future, there are going to be widespread educational opportunities in this field. And I'm hopeful that the video interviews that I conduct will become an important resource when that day arrives.
Could you tell our listeners how they can get a hold of your videos?
You can go to www.newthinkingaloud. It's all one word, and aloud is ALLOWED.com. And that's the video channel. There are over 200 interviews that have been posted, and new ones get put up every week.
Wow, you're still pretty active with that. I am hoping or intending to create a new discipline that could be in universities that would be transdisciplinary. I call it coincidence studies. Mm-hmm. And I'm beginning to work on a textbook for such a field of study, an introductory textbook for it. So it needs to happen, and somehow I hope that you and I can figure out ways to marshal support to create a new discipline, whatever we call it, that begins to address these subjects that universities just aren't paying attention to, but are real-life experiences for us chickens walking around here on Earth.
I'm happy to work with you on that, Bernie.
All right, good. You've worked with me already by telling me that's kind of what you have in mind anyway, so having a shared vision is a big help.
Yeah.
Let's go pretend like we're in the classroom here, and we got a bunch of students out there, and we are talking about one of the conundrums in coincidence studies, which is the relationship between synchronicity and Psi, PSI, and telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition. How do Jung mix the two of them up regularly, sometimes including precognition and telepathy as part of synchronicity, and some Jungians not including those psi events, but staying more with coincidences that help people individuate, that were psychologically helpful to them. So what is your thinking about the relationship between the synchronicity and psi?
Well, parapsychology in its modern form originated with J.B. Rhine at Duke University, and he popularized the term extrasensory perception, which implies an information channel going from across space and time, so that people have these telepathy or clairvoyant experiences. The problem is we've never been able to find any information channel. It's certainly not in the electromagnetic spectrum, and nobody has any idea how that works. So people have begun to theorize that maybe it's not a question of information traveling from one location to another at all. Maybe something different is involved, a completely different model. And that's what synchronicity offers as an alternative to people in parapsychology. So I would say that many parapsychologists use these terms interchangeably. It's almost like the wave-particle duality that we see in quantum physics, that some psychic events seem to be a like mental radio, an information transmission model, and others seem to be more synchronistic, but it's actually almost impossible to tell them apart.
I am of the information transfer way of thinking, simply because the term synchronicity, among many others, is so vague. So that synchronicity is undefined, is not well defined. But one of the key elements of synchronicity that I keep reading is archetypes, as part of the activation or constellation of archetypes, as central to synchronicity, let's say explanatory. I won't use mechanism, but it looks kind of mechanistic sometimes. So what's your view of archetypes, synchronicity, and telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition?
Well, I guess, as you know, I wrote this paper with Brendan Engen called Archetypal Synchronistic Resonance.
Yes.
Because Brendan and I, who I had never met at the time, had a series of coincidences that we shared, and they were related to the idea that I had been an ancient Roman philosopher named Seneca in a past lifetime. And Brendan had a psychic reading from a channeler who said that he knew Seneca in this past lifetime, and would he like to meet him today? And the channeler said Jeffrey Mishlove is the person who was this ancient philosopher. And so I got an email from Brendan telling me all of this. And the synchronicity is that the day that email arrived, I was traveling in Spain on my way to visit the city of Cordoba, which is the city where Seneca was born. And many other synchronicities passed between us. And so Brendan asked me, well, do you think you were Seneca? And I said, I have no reason to think that I was Seneca. I think what's going on is something I would call archetypal synchronistic resonance. And he said, gee, you ought to write that up. And I said to him, well, we could write it together. And that's how our paper emerged. And it dawned on me that it's another way of thinking about what some people would call reincarnation.
Wow. I know how do you get to reincarnation from the coincidence you just described?
Well, now, many people, for example, have past life regression.
Yeah.
And will, in a past life hypnotic session, they will come up with an elaborate story of having lived a past lifetime. And then to reinforce that story, if it has a lot of, I would use the term numinosity to it, something, spiritually attractive, well, then that becomes a constellation that generates synchronicities that seem to reinforce the story itself. Now, it doesn't mean that those past lives are real past lives. Parapsychologists who look at past life research tend to do it differently. They look at young children who, almost as soon as they can speak, begin talking about having had a past lifetime. And oftentimes those children are born with, for example, birthmarks that correspond to the death wounds of the past lives that they seem to remember. And I would say that's much stronger evidence for what we might really think about as reincarnation. But there's a class of events that are more synchronistic in nature, and I guess what you might say is they simulate reincarnation, but might not actually be so. And in my case, when I've had different psychics tell me you were Seneca in a past lifetime or you were William James in a past lifetime, maybe it's just me, but I don't have any memory of having been those people. So I'm inclined to think that something else is going on, and what that might be is an archetypal synchronistic resonance, because the very notion of rebirth or reincarnation is itself an archetype.
Oh yeah, it's an archetype, but how does its activation get so specific?
Well, that's a mystery, and I can't really answer that entirely, but I guess it's fair to say that there's a realm, and I call it the realm of mythos, the realm of archetypes, the realm of mythological entities, and a lot of things are generated from that realm. The mystics of every culture would tell you that we are all one at the level of consciousness, Bernie. You and I share one consciousness, and yet we have separate bodies. So it's kind of a mystery. How is it that we are all one, and yet we seem to be, as Alan Watts said, skin-encapsulated egos, each one separate. We have an inside and an outside. And I think this realm of mythos, this synchronistic archetypal connections, is what links the individual separate human being to the realm of oneness.
Now, I think you're right about there being a oneness, and what I'm interested in is taking apart the oneness and seeing what it's composed of. And for you, archetypes are the major component of this oneness. Is that right?
Well, I think I would say they are the link between the realm where everything is united, everything is one, and the realm where everything is separate.
And that somehow these archetypes are activated or constellated under certain conditions. And what do you think made the archetype of rebirth, specifically Seneca, happen between you and Brendan?
Well, I can tell you how it all started, because I have the whole thing captured.
I made a mistake here again. We're getting right near the end, and I don't want to cut you off when you are telling the full story. So we're going to come back and talk about you and Brendan and how this archetype seemed to have gotten activated.
Okay.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A Soul Balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back to CC with BB, the only radio show in the world dedicated to the study of synchronicity, coincidences, and serendipity. Our guest is Jeff Mishlove, and we are deeply into archetypes and synchronicity with a story he's telling about a colleague of his, Brendan Engen. Please continue, Jeff.
Okay, well, this story began actually long before I ever met Brendan. I did a TV interview for the original Thinking Aloud series with Dr. Martin Rossman, who is an expert in hypnosis. And he actually demonstrated on me a hypnotic process, which we captured on video, in which I was to go into a trance state and get in touch with what he called your inner healing advisor. He said it could be anything. It might turn out to be a chipmunk or an animal. And so I'm in this hypnotic state, and he's explaining it, and then I have on video, I come out of the hypnotic state with this silly grin on my face, like, wow, something just happened. And he asked me, well, what was it? And I said, well, a figure appeared to me. He was wearing a toga. And I thought, oh, good, this must be Demosthenes, the great Greek orator, and that'll help me practice my speaking ability, which I thought I'd like to work on. So I said to the character in my hypnotic vision, "Hello, Demosthenes." And he said to me, "I'm not Demosthenes." I said, "Well, who are you?" He said, "I'm Seneca." And I said to him, "Well, Seneca, since you're here, what would you like me to do?" And he said, "Study my life."
Study my life.
That it came out like that. And I came out of the trance, and it felt like, my gosh, that was real. I wanted Demosthenes, but he insisted he was Seneca. So I began studying the life of Seneca, and I learned he's one of the most remarkable people in history, frankly. But one of the interesting things about him is that he was ordered to commit suicide by his emperor, the Emperor Nero, who had been his student. And Nero became jealous of Seneca and had a centurion come in to Seneca's home when he was having a dinner party and tell him right then and there, the emperor wants you to take your own life. And Seneca said to him, "Well, can't I at least make out my last will and testament?" And the centurion said no. So Seneca turned to his dinner guests and he said to them, "All I can bequeath to you is my life. Study my life." Those were his last words.
And you came up with that phrase as you came out of that hypnotic regression.
Yeah.
That was most amazing. That's most amazing. And as I listened to you tell me, somehow you were resonating with the archetype of Seneca.
Exactly. Yes. So I was aware of that I had this synchronistic connection with Seneca. And then when Brendan contacted me many years later, just as I was about to visit the town where Seneca was born in Spain, there were other synchronicities that occurred. For example, many years earlier, when I was doing my radio work, I interviewed a man named Nahum Stiskin, who had written a book called The Looking Glass God about Taoism in Japan. And I don't know whatever became of that book, but Brendan was visiting a bookstore in Walnut Creek, California, some miles away from any place I had ever lived. And he ended up finding that book and buying it. And when he opened the book up, it had my signature in it. It had been my copy of that book.
And how do you think that happened?
Well,
you found that book.
All I can say is, once again, synchronicity, because it happened within just a matter of days from the time he first contacted me.
Well, I call it human GPS, human geospatial system capacity that we have in us. Remember Rex Stanford and
oh yes,
and his work with PMIR, psi-mediated instrumental responses.
Yes.
And somehow you subconsciously, intuitively, we make decisions that lead us to places that we need to go or need to avoid. Mm-hmm. And I've used the word, I use the human GPS as kind of a simpler way of, and more technologically familiar way of thinking about it, that Brendan was so keyed up or activated, or whatever word you want to use, constellated I want to use, about his connection with you, that he was able to find his way to this buzzing, energy-packed book that he was tuned into because he was resonating with you.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Well, this is what I keep trying to do, is take the ideas out of outer space. And I'm going to ask you this question about our possible course or department in coincidence studies. Is it's the word synchronicity, because the word synchronicity you have been using in two ways. Primarily, you've been using it as an explanatory model involving archetypes, but the word synchronicity is also used more often used as meaningful coincidences, to mean meaningful coincidences. So here we have one word, synchronicity, that both defines or labels the phenomenon and is also the word that explains it. This is self-reflective, recursive, and you can get lost in the word by having these two definitions. So I am proposing that synchronicity be used as an explanation for meaningful coincidences, and that it be slowly pulled away from its use as meaningful coincidences themselves, because synchronicity means so many different kinds of coincidences.
Well, yes, I like the direction you're going there. I think there's an incredibly complex web of ways of thinking about it, because it has to do with the fundamental nature of time and space itself. And I think that as a culture, there are many things about time and space that we have yet to explore. So we're often at a loss for good language to explain how these things occur.
Yes, and because we have been at a loss, and Jung was at a loss wandering into this area, or these areas, he used the same word for two different related, but certainly two very different things. An explanation versus description, and using the same word for both is confusing for anyone trying to study the whole thing, but I see why he did it. As you are saying, it's a confusing area to run into, but I think for academic purposes, for even scientific purposes, trying to figure out synchronicity, we should separate the description from the explanation.
I like that.
Good. It's not going to be easy to make that happen, but with our students, we can make sure that they answer that test question right. Let's end our discussion today with Ted Owens, the PK man. Who was Ted Owens? What is PK, and what did he accomplish?
Well, Ted Owens called himself the PK man, and I did research with him from 1976 until his death in 1987. And he believed that he was in contact with alien beings, invisible alien beings. He called them the space intelligences. And by working through them, he was able to produce over 160 demonstrations that I have records of. And typically they involved large-scale events, power blackouts, UFO sightings, cold spells, heat waves, volcanic activity, earthquakes. And he would send letters to scientists saying, I, the great PK man, am about to produce this event and is a demonstration of my powers to you. And then he would send them newspaper clippings showing that these events occurred after he made the statement of his intention to cause these events. He regarded himself as the most powerful person with these abilities since the days of Moses. And
John Lilly called maybe the same intelligence as the Earth Coincidence Control Office.
Yeah.
The idea of there being intelligences out there to be communicating with, I think, is the kind of breakdown of the we're all one thing that I'm interested in, because I think there are these, I think of them as jellyfish-like floating in the sea of consciousness. They're kind of congealed intelligences which we can have contact with, the way Ted Owens was having contact, it seems. My question for you, though, with Ted, how do you know it wasn't precognition instead of PK, psychokinetic?
You know, it's very hard to tease them apart, and that's one of the reasons parapsychologists like to refer to all of these abilities simply as psi. But in Ted Owens' case, some events seem very much like psychokinesis, because one of the things that he could do is he'd point his finger and cause lightning to strike.
That's a good trick. I mean, Babe Ruth could do it with a bat. That's a good trick. That's a good trick. Wow. Now, you could still say he's tuned into the events around him and could feel when the lightning was going to happen, but that's a lower probability thing.
Well, there is a case that I have in my files, and I've interviewed the witness, an attorney from Philadelphia named Sidney Margulies, and Ted Owens was working in his law.
We've got about 20 seconds. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, Margulies told him where to make the lightning strike, and then he did.
Oh, now that is good.
Yeah.
That is good. He was able to be able to be that specific and being able to say what's going to happen when is an amazing capacity. So you became convinced that he could channel the efforts of that intelligence. Thank you very much, Jeff, for being on the program. It's been a delight talking with you. I hope we can talk again.
Likewise. Thank you.